Hey, welcome back to the Atometer YouTube studio. So about a year ago I uploaded a video showcasing my winter survival shelter that I built pretty much in the middle of nowhere. And in that video we took a nice long hike and I just kind of showed the shelter. But since then I've gotten a lot of comments and questions on it, so I figured rather than going through and trying to answer all these questions, the best thing to do would actually be just to go out there for the night and spend the night there and just show you guys how the shelter works and how warm it actually gets in the winter. So it's about 5:30 in the morning. I just woke up, still having my coffee. In a few minutes here, I'm gonna pack up just like an overnight bag and we're gonna hit the trail. And I want to try to get to the shelter with plenty of time to get the firewood and get the fire going and just get everything ready for staying the night there. But I'm going to try to answer all the questions from my previous video in this video so you guys can see the shelter just firsthand, how to set it up, how to set up the fire, how to get the rocks hot, how to warm it up, just all that stuff. And then just to kind of prove to you guys it is the warmest winter shelter out there, I'm going to bring a temperature gauge with, and once we're all situated we'll bring this in the shelter and I'll show you guys how warm the shelter really gets when it's freezing out. So it should be kind of fun, but I need to finish my coffee before I can even do a thing here, and then we'll pack up and then we're gonna hit the trail, and should be a really fun day. So thanks for tuning in, and yeah, let's go do some survival shit. Note to self, leave a big axe in the shelter just so you have it, because this is going to take a while. Luckily, I came out here in the summer, the big hacksaw. I got some of this wood cut up, but I should have probably had the foresight to split some of it or leave a big enough axe here. I thought this hatchet would work a little better, but we'll keep trucking here. Fire needs to be going by dark. So we got our base. We want to keep the rocks off the ground. So we made a nice little base out of some wood here. And then the real trick to these winter fires, you guys, is as much freaking birch bark as you can find. I mean, it's no wonder the Native Americans had a very sacred view of birch bark, because it's just such a versatile thing that nature provides. But we're using as dry of branches as we can, and we're gonna maybe find some more birch bark and a lot of kindling, and we're just gonna put as much kindling and birch bark on here before we put our bigger pieces on as we can, because we only got one shot at getting this fire going really hot, and once it gets dark, it's gonna be near impossible to go forage for firewood and stuff. So luckily I came out here a few weeks ago and did a little bit of preparation, but the hardest part in the winter, when everything's kind of wet like it is now, is just to find a lot of birch bark and a lot of dry kindling and get these rocks off the ground so they're not sitting in the wet ground. So that way they'll get nice and hot. So let's find some more kindling, and we'll get this fire ready to get lit before dark, and then we can start cleaning up the shelter for tonight. All right, guys, we got our fire structure built here. It's taken a little longer than I've expected, just because so far this winter we've had a lot of rain mixed with snow, so even the dead branches on the trees that I've been using for my kindling and stuff, they're soaking wet. The wood I've had to chop up pretty small because it's also soaking wet. So really what I've been spending a lot of time doing here is just scavenging for birch bark, because in the winter the one thing that will guarantee to catch fire is birch bark. But if you've got wet wood, you just need enough of it to get a hot enough flame to catch everything else. So right now we're about an hour and a half from sundown, so I'm kind of at the point of no return where I'm not going to be walking back in the dark. Pretty dangerous. So either way, I'll be staying in the shelter tonight. The only question is, will I be staying in the shelter and it'd be freezing all night, or will I be able to get this fire going and get these rocks nice and hot to keep me warm all night? So right now we're committed, so I'll check back in a little bit here. I think I'm going to probably start the fire a little sooner than I thought, just in case I have a problem getting it going. I don't want to be looking for more birch bark or more dry wood in the pitch black. So that's where we're at. All right, it's about an hour from sunset here, and I got a pretty shit fire going. I mean, it's I've got the smoke, I've got embers, and I've got a couple of flames, but the wood is pretty wet. Right now, there was probably a window at some point to head back, but there's no way I'm doing that hike in the middle of the night or at dark. So I've been for the last 45 minutes fanning the fire with that little shovel I brought, and actually I thought I'd be doing more shoveling with that shovel, but actually it's turned out to be a pretty handy tool for fanning the flames of that fire, because this wood is just wet. So it just depends where you're at and how dry the wood is and just what you have available. But if I had one more guy with me, this would be easy, because somebody could stay by the fire and keep it going, and the other one could scavenge for dry firewood. So, but it's just me. I've been a fan in the fire for a little bit, then I run off, try to find some small sticks to keep it going, and then I come back and fan it again. So I've been doing that for a little while now. But as you can see, I do have a flame right now, which I want to keep it that way. So I'm going to do as much scavenging as possible before it gets dark, because once it's dark, whatever I have for a fire is what I have. And I need that thing hot enough to get those rocks really hot so they'll keep the shelter warm all night. So I'll check back in a little bit, and hopefully everything goes as planned. Well, this is why we don't have wildfires in the winter in Wisconsin. Yeah, I'm pretty much at the end of my rope here as far as how much energy I've expended keeping this fire going, and I'm going to pile on just more wet brush and let it burn down to what it's going to be. And then I did put 7-8 rocks in there, so I might have to bring them all in, but I should be warm all night, so I'm not too worried about that. But ideally I like to heat up heat up about that number, but only bring 1 or 2 in at a time. But they might not be as warm as they usually are, just because the wood is so wet. And it's not the snow, like I mentioned, it's I've had a lot of rain, sleet, and snow, so the branches on the trees are just wet. So normally this wouldn't be a problem. So sundown pretty soon, so we'll see what happens. Been a long day. I'm in the shelter now, getting ready to bring some rocks in here to warm it up in here. It's about 10 at night, and I'll probably be going to bed pretty quick here, because there's a lot of work. So what I did though, I did bring a temperature gauge with, so once I get the rocks in here, we'll shut the door, and then we'll let it heat up, and I'll show you guys kind of what the temp is once you bring the rocks in. But it's been a long day. I finally got the fire going pretty well. Right now it's hot enough where I can put, sticks and pieces of wood on there that have snow on it. It just melts right off. So, but it was just tough today because everything was so wet. So that's what I had to deal with. Normally you may or may not have to deal with something like that. It's just we've had a lot of sleet and just wet rain and mixed with snow. So it's a little bit tougher to get that fire stabilized. But once you get some really hot embers, you can almost put anything on it and it'll burn. So Let's bring some rocks in, and I'm gonna get my sleeping stuff ready here, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Oh, almost too warm in here. Oh, all right, guys. Just getting ready to get some shut-eye here. The thermometer's up to 72 degrees in here right now and climbing. So it's warm enough for me. It's considering it's only 19 degrees outside. I think that'll work pretty well. But lessons learned today are just that the most important part of using the rocks to heat your shelter is that you're able to get a good fire going, and sometimes that's pretty challenging. Today, one of the things I dealt with was just wet and soggy wood everywhere. So I had to spend most of my time collecting a lot of birch bark just to give the fire plenty of fuel to keep going. But once I got some really good embers and got the fire really hot, then I could put the wet stuff on there and it would burn. So once I got going, it was pretty low maintenance and I could actually make something to eat and relax for a little while. But yeah, I don't even know what time it is. It's for sure probably after 10 or 11, something like that. So normally I stay up a lot later than that, but just super tired from all the work today. So I'm gonna get some shut-eye. And I just want to thank you guys for coming with on this little adventure. I've been meaning to make this video just so I could show you guys how the shelter worked, and just to prove to you guys it works really well. And I just hadn't gotten around to coming out here, but yeah, I'm glad you guys could come with. So obviously, if you like videos like this, if you're into shelter making or just wilderness survival type stuff, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on my channel. If you like this video, hit the like button, or if you have any comments, I try not to leave anything out, because last video I did on this shelter, there was just so many questions, and a lot of those questions could only be answered by coming out here and actually staying the night this time and just showing you how it works. So hopefully this answers all the questions, but if there's more questions on this, leave it in the comments and I'll answer it. But I just want to thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay safe out there, guys, and of course, you girls too. All right, good night. Lights out time.